Right, I want to burst a bubble today. If you have been anywhere near the world of property sourcing, you will have heard it 100 times. You know that you need to have a big investor database. You need hundreds of buyers. You need hundreds of investors on your list. Get out there, spam every WhatsApp group you can find and hope to God that somebody bites. And I am going to tell you why that is complete and utter. And I'm actually going to prove it to you with my own numbers. So in my first year of property sourcing, almost a decade ago now, on maternity leave, by the way, right? So not exactly the ideal launch conditions, but I made six figures, £123,000 to be exact. And that bit shocks people every time I say it, because I did not have a big investor database, not even remotely close. And the bulk of that six figures came from just 5 investor clients. 5. Right? I'm saying it again. Now, stick with me, because today on the podcast, I want to uncover the big myth, why it's false, and why my way, which is, by the way, caveat, side note, the way I built a multi-million pounds property portfolio off the back of it, works much better. Now, let's name the myth properly first, because I think a lot of you are believing what you're hearing online, at the courses, on the webinars, without actually even questioning it. So the myth is that sourcing success is a numbers game. And in some areas, that is true. More investors on your list equals more deals sold equals more money. So they say. So the advice you get is build the list, grow the list, constantly be adding to the list. And then once you've got the list, work the list, message everybody, spam the WhatsApp group, slide into the DMs, fire out the same deal to 50 people, and then hope that one of them says yes. That is probably sounding a wee bit familiar to some of you listening to this podcast episode. But here's what that actually feels like on a day-to-day basis. Well, you're chasing your tail. You are sending the same property deal to person after person after person. And I would bet my bottom dollar that more than half of them don't even reply. And the ones that do reply want 30 questions answered before they even consider it. And when you finally do maybe get a yes, you've earned one fee for one deal, and then you're straight back to square one, doing the exact same chase all over again to try and find the next deal. That is not a business. That is the property sourcing treadmill. And the worst part about all of that is this particular belief is exactly why so many sourcers burn out or quit, throw the towel in within the first year. And actually, within the first year is probably being kind to them. That's why most of them throw the towel out, throw the toys out of the pram within 6 months. They think that the answer is get more investors. So they pour all their time into outreach, into growing a list, into being everywhere. And they never stop to ask whether the problem is actually the quality of who's on that list in the first place. It has to be quality over quantity always. Let me tell you what happened to me. When I sat down and looked at where my initial six figures came from during that first year of my sourcing business and, doing this on maternity leave, I didn't find 50 different investors each for buying one deal. I had five people. And these 5 weren't taking one deal off me at a time and then disappearing into the distance, never to be seen again. They were coming back for 3 deals, 4 deals, 5 deals on repeat. And I started to call them my binge buyers. Now think about what that means for the maths. Because if I do the exact same amount of work sourcing a deal for a brand new investor who takes one property and then never comes back versus sourcing a deal for one of my binge buyer investors, I'm doing the same level of work, but I'm getting paid 3, 4, 5 times over for it per deal. If they are taking 3 deals off me in one go, I'm getting paid 3 times my fee. For example, if my sourcing fee was £3,000 for a buy-to-let and this investor client wanted 3 or 4 off me in one transaction, then I'm getting 3 or 4 times a £3,000 fee, which takes it to £9,000 for the transaction or £12,000 for the transaction. So it's the same level of effort as it would be for one deal, but the income from it is absolutely turbocharged. And once I saw that laid out in black and white, I actually stopped chasing volume of investors completely. And I stopped thinking, how do I get more of these binge buyer investors on my database. And I really put a lot of time and effort and started to think, how do I attract more investors like that? And it's not just about the money multiplying, although obviously that's a huge part of it. It's what these clients are actually like to work with. Binge buyer investors, as I call them, they know exactly what they want. There's no hand holding, there's no dragging them over the line, there's no chasing them for a response for 3 weeks. They are portfolio buyers. I want to really hammer that home. I'll say it again. They are portfolio buyers. They are buying small portfolios. They are buying 3 properties in one transaction. They're buying 4 properties in one transaction. They're buying 5 properties in one transaction. And they think in terms of building something, not just picking up a deal. So because of that, they genuinely value what it is that you do for them. They understand the service that you're providing is the very thing that lets them scale without actually having to do any of that legwork themselves. They want it totally hands off. And that's the whole point of using a sourcer. To them, they're not interested in becoming an expert in agent relationships or off-market deals. They just want it taken care of. They want to know that scaling their portfolio is something that is being handled, and they pay. They happily pay. They value the service, and they pay on time every single time. You don't need to chase invoices. There's no awkward follow-ups. Oh, still outstanding there, my sourcing fee. There's none of that. Now, you compare that to constantly hunting for new one and done investors, and to be perfectly frank, there's absolutely no comparison. So why is this better than the big database model? Well, I mean, I think I've made it pretty clear by now, but let me break it down properly, because it's not that this is just a better way to work. It's fundamentally much more profitable. It is a much higher cash flow model, and it's much more sustainable to build a property sourcing business that way. Why? Well, number one, like I've touched on, it's the same level of effort for a serious amount more of money. It deserves repeating. I know I've said it already, but this ultimately boils down to the whole crux of it. Sourcing a deal takes a certain amount of time. It takes a certain amount of energy, regardless of who it's for. If that effort only ever earns you one fee, you are permanently trading your time for money. One deal at a time, another deal at a time, one after one after one, forever. Now, if that same effort you can earn 3, 4, 5 times the fee from a client who keeps coming back, then you've just completely changed the entire economics of your business without doing anything different in terms of your workload. The second thing is that there's no more chasing. A big unqualified list means constant outreach, constant follow-up, constant checking in messages that ultimately go absolutely nowhere. But binge buyers remove almost all of that. They are coming to you. They trust the process because you've already proven yourself with one deal, 2 or 3. Then there's the quality of the relationship. When someone's bought 3 deals off you, they're not questioning your credibility anymore. So there's no proving yourself from scratch every single time. That trust means faster decisions, smoother transactions, and a genuinely better experience for both of you. And the fourth is, well, it's actually sustainable. A big spammy list requires constant babysitting. You have to keep growing it. You have to keep messaging it. You have to keep working it, or it goes completely cold. 5 or 10 strong repeat relationships do not need that, because you can serve each of them individually, properly, and build something real, build something that is talked about, build something that is valuable. And then you or the business won't collapse the second you stop grinding on outreach. So ultimately, the reframe that I want you to take away today is it's never really about how many investors you know. It's about how many of the right investors you know and how deep those relationships goes. A big list filled with, one-off tire-kicking buyers will always, always, always underperform a small handful of binge buyers, portfolio buyers, because you are comparing a treadmill to a flywheel, and you will be exhausted on the treadmill. It will be an absolute nightmare. It's not sustainable. It is not a sustainable business model. I'm not going to sit here and tell you exactly how I go about attracting binge buyer investors. That's a whole other methodology in itself, and it's something I teach properly inside the 6-figure sourcing blueprint program. There's a real strategy behind it. This is not a throw mud at the wall and see if something sticks style approach. But what I do want to leave you with on today's podcast is the what you should be shifting your focus towards starting today. Stop asking, how do I get more investors? And start asking yourself, how do I get better investors? Stop measuring your sourcing business by the size of your list and start measuring it by the depth of your best relationships. And stop treating every new investor conversation the same. Pay attention to who shows the traits of a binge buyer early, the ones who ask the sharp questions, who talk about portfolio building, who talk about scaling up, who talk about growing their portfolio rather than just, I'm looking for a deal. Those are the ones worth investing your time and your energy into properly, because they are the investors, the ones who will come back time and time again. So that single shift in focus from quantity to quality, that one-off repeat, that is not the way to scale your sourcing business. You will not replace your salary that way. You will not build a predictable, sustainable, profitable, high cash flowing sourcing business that way. It will become more of a side hustle if you do it that way. My advice, speaking as someone who has built their entire business off the back of dealing with portfolio buyers and taking 12 grand, 15 grand per transaction. So if I'm out there and I've sourced 5 deals in one transaction for one buyer, I've just earned myself 15 grand for the same amount of work. I cannot stress the importance of listening to what it is that I'm telling you here today and running with it and implementing it, because your bank balance further down the line will thank you for it. So there you have it. That is the myth that you need a huge investor database and a life spent WhatsApping and spamming groups praying that somebody bites. The reality is 5, that's all you need. 5 of the right type of investors who are buying on repeat can outperform a database of more than 500. I built a 6-figure sourcing income in my first year on maternity leave off the back of exactly this. It was not luck. I did not have a big list. I found myself 5 binge buyers. Now, if this has got you thinking, okay, I want to know exactly how I attract clients like this, how I build a business around repeat, hands-off, high-trust investors instead of, chasing one-off deals forever, then I have something for you. I am running an in-person training day on all things property sourcing, how I replaced my corporate salary and earned a 6-figure income inside 12 months on maternity leave. I'm running it on the 12th of September at the Merchant Hotel in Belfast. The event will run from 11:30 to 6 p.m. And it is exactly for people who are ready to stop guessing and start building this property straight from the horse's mouth, from a woman who started the business bootstrapped, sitting at a Paw Patrol table from her son's nursery room while on maternity leave, and where we are today is night and day. So it's doors open 11:30. We start at 12 sharp. There's a general admission ticket and a VIP ticket if you want to have the perks of the premier seating on the day and a private mastermind dinner with me that evening. I haven't actually advertised this publicly yet, and we've sold a bunch of tickets. So spaces are filling up. If you want in, DM me on Instagram or reply to this email and simply send me the message Belfast and I'll get you your ticket. I'll see you there.